What's up, short attention span history nerds? The White House is probably the most famous house in the world. If you show a picture of it to anyone, anywhere in the world basically, they're probably going to be able to identify it correctly. But do you know the interesting history behind the White House? On October 13, 1792, construction began on the White House when the cornerstone was laid. Since then, the White House has experienced a fire, a near condemning, a second fire, and an effort to build a second White House. Here's a look at some of the most impressive facts about the White House that you can liven up your next party with. That is, if your party's full of people that are really big nerds about the White House. Before the 26th president made the nickname official in 1901, the house went by a lot of different names. It was known as the President's Mansion, the People's House, the President's Palace, just to name a few. What President Roosevelt was trying to do was distinguish it from the governor's mansions. Prior to this, remember, the governors were the ones that ruled the 13 colonies. So to distinguish it from the mansions of the individual states, he wanted something that was more notable. So he came up with the White House. Obviously, why? It's a giant white house. And the name stuck. In 1901, it became officially known as the White House. The city of Philadelphia wasn't pleased with the fact that the new District of Columbia was getting the official residency of the president. So in the 1790s, Philadelphia constructed its own building for the president to stay in and for other elected officials to stay in as well. However, George Washington wasn't keen with this new house, so he refused to stay there. The building, in fact, is just 2 blocks south of the National Constitution Center. George Washington never lived in the White House. The next time you go on your tour of the White House, don't look for Washington's ghost. It's not going to be there. He never lived there. While the mansion may be in the city named after George Washington passed away in late 1799, about a year before John Adams became the first president to ever live in the White House. Very little of the original White House actually still remains. British forces set fire to the White House in 1814 in retaliation to American troops setting fire to the Canadian Parliament. The famous Gilbert Stuart painting of George Washington was saved by Dolly Madison with the help of a few other people within the White House, and only a few exterior and interior walls actually survived the White House. So next time you see the White House, realize a lot of that is new construction. There was a second big fire in the White House on Christmas Eve in 1929 that gutted the Oval Office and a large majority of the West Wing. Herbert Hoover left a Christmas party to personally put out the blaze. He and Ulysses S. Grant III actually attacked the fire themselves to attempt to try to put the fire out, but the Secret Service wasn't too keen with this. The blaze was actually started by a blocked fireplace flue. The first picketers at the White House were suffragists. Suffragists picketed at the White House for over 2 years, and in that time, over 200 arrests were made. But this wasn't for naught. They did get the attention of the president, and eventually the 19th Amendment was signed into law. President Teddy Roosevelt created the West Wing. The West Wing was expanded under William Taft and Franklin Delano Roosevelt. However, it was Teddy Roosevelt that got the West Wing built and attached to the White House. In fact, it was Thomas Jefferson that suggested a West Wing on the White House 100 years prior, which shows you there's a history of things taking forever to get done in Washington, D.C. The White House was nearly condemned in 1948. President Harry S. Truman was forced out of the White House in 1948 because it was near collapse. He was forced to live in the Blair House while construction began on the White House. Apparently, the budget for restoration of the White House had gone completely ignored under FDR's administration, even though new staffers were being added to the payroll and more people were beginning to live in the White House. In 1948, engineers found that the White House was structurally unsound and near collapse. President Truman then spearheaded an extensive effort to rebuild the White House, which eventually was completed in 1952. There was a 1950 attack on the president's house. While President Truman was staying at the Blair House, two Puerto Rican nationalists attempted to storm the Blair House, believing that it was going to be less secure than the White House. A 38-second gun battle ensued in which one of the Puerto Rican assailants was killed, and subsequently one of the Secret Service agents was killed as well. The Secret Service agent that died in the gunfight actually killed the assailant as he was 30 feet away from President Truman. Truman was staying in the bedroom at the time and moved towards the window where the assailant was approaching. You can buy your own White House for $5 million, and that's a steal considering, now who you ask, that the original White House is anywhere between $110 million and $360 million. The replica White House is in McLean, Virginia, and while it's only 14,000 square feet compared to the 55,000 square feet of the original White House, it does have a full-size Oval Office and Lincoln bedroom. The owners of the mini White House actually used the floor plans from the original White House to construct their own building. The White House is missing its cornerstone. Any anniversary of the White House wouldn't be complete with the retelling of the story about the missing cornerstone. On that fateful day in October 1792, a group of Freemasons met at Georgetown Tavern. Then they paraded to the site of the White House, where they laid an inscribed cornerstone. After that, they went back to the tavern and drank and drank and drank until they couldn't remember where they had laid the cornerstone. There have been many attempts to find the original cornerstone. President Truman, during the reconstruction of the White House, made it a personal mission to try to find the cornerstone, but failed. There is one theory, however, that the cornerstone is embedded between two walls in the Rose Garden. Modern-day presidents have their predecessor, Benjamin Harrison, to thank for the electricity in the White House. Electricity was installed in 1891 into the White House by the Edison General Electric Company on the behest of the 23rd president. Harrison and his wife, however, were scared to death of electrocution, so they never touched the light switches. The White House lights often stayed on during the day and off during the night. The only time it changed situations is if someone else, a staffer or a guest at the White House, turned the lights on or turned the lights off. And it stayed that way until somebody reversed the situation. The press briefing room was once completely underwater. Members of the press corps have been shuffled in and out of the press briefing room since the 1970s, when Richard Nixon had it established as the press room. However, the James S. Brady press briefing room was once completely underwater. The James S. Brady press briefing room was once an indoor swimming area. Franklin Delano Roosevelt had the indoor aquatic area built in place of the old laundry room, and he swam there religiously to soothe his polio. So there you have it, 13 interesting facts about the White House that you may not have known about. 13. Now, it's a good thing I'm not superstitious, because I know that 13 facts is what conjures Bloody Mary and Freddy Krueger in the bathroom mirror. No, that's what happens when you drink 13 Bloody Marys. Anyway, comment down below if you have any facts about the White House that I haven't covered. I'd be interested to hear what you have to say. And remember, if you like this content, please consider giving me a thumbs up and subscribing. Until next time, history fans.